Have ADHD? These are 11 things that you should declutter from your kitchen before 2024. Now, with ADHD, we tend to buy more than we actually need and lose things that we actually have. And so, the question I'm going to ask you is, how many plastic clear containers do you actually have? Do you have an excessive amount? Because this can be a definite issue if you're going to look in your pantry and realize you have way too many plastic containers, Tupperware containers in your pantry. And the reason this is bad is because one, you might have those containers up there and have just lost specific containers and then just lost specific tops to those containers and then not have matching containers to matching tops. And up in your pantry, you have so many of these containers. You can't find the one that you actually need because there's just a jumble up there. And the other thing, do you have everything stacked neatly in that pantry as well, or in that cabinet as well? Because a lot of times when you have these plastic clear containers, they're just up in the pantry and they might just be spread out all over the place. So how is your pantry? Do you have it all stacked up neatly, or is it like that, a jumbled mess? And so the advice is to get rid of all of the containers that you don't need that are extra and reduce down to just the amount you actually need, because it's going to clean up your pantry, clean up your cabinet wherever they are. And you can also make sure that you have the container and the top that match. It's going to save you time and it's going to save you frustration as well. And another thing with ADHD, you tend to get interested in things really quick and lose interest in things really quick. So you may be really interested, for example, in cooking, and you're just going to be the best cook. You buy all the cookbooks, you buy all the materials and everything to make sure you have all the stuff to get ready to cook. And then for whatever reason, you lose interest in trying to learn how to cook. Your interest just shifts to something else. And you're like, I don't feel like learning how to cook at all. I'm done with it. And you just never learn how to cook. But yet, what happens is you still have these cookbooks that you bought and they have now become clutter. So you want to make sure that if this happens to you, if you get into the habit of buying these cookbooks or something else that you really don't need, that was just an interest, then you want to go ahead and get rid of the excess cookbooks and throw them out, because you've decided you're not going to learn how to cook anymore. You haven't cracked open a cookbook at any time in the last 3 or 4 months or even a year, and they're just sitting in your kitchen or on a shelf, just taking up space. And so it might be time to go ahead and get them and get rid of them or give them to someone else. And another thing, with ADHD, you tend to buy something just really impulsively. You've been looking for it, you know that you need it, and so you go ahead and buy it and get it home. And then the issue is, say for example, you have a kitchen appliance, maybe an air fryer or something of that nature that you buy, you bring it home, you know you need one, you put it in your kitchen, and then you come back and look at it and then realize that you have a air fryer already there that you've already bought, and now you have 2 air fryers. So what are you going to do with 2 air fryers if you don't need 2 air fryers? They're just going to take up space on your counter because now you have 2, or take up space in a closet or a pantry or wherever you're going to store this extra air fryer, right? And so that becomes an issue. So if you do that, if you have duplicates of things, then you want to think about, should I get rid of this? Should I go ahead and give it to someone, sell it, or donate it, or whatever you want to do with it? But you don't want to keep it in your kitchen because of the fact that it's going to take up space, and you can use that space for something else. Now, if it's on your kitchen counter, it's going to free up space to make your kitchen counter more clutter free. That's another advantage of this. But you want to think about, when you have this extra stuff, what do you want to do with it, and is it time to just get rid of it? And when you have ADHD, you tend to procrastinate, especially with throwing things out or getting rid of things, and especially when they have gone to the point to where they are worn out and you're just like, this is my favorite one, so I don't want to throw it away. This happens also when you have oven mitts that you've had for a while and they've gotten worn out, and it is time to actually get rid of them and throw them away, because you do not want to have an oven mitt that's worn out and you're trying to pick up something really hot, and then because it's worn out, you burn yourself. And I've done that before. So you want to make sure that you have an oven mitt that can actually do the job that's designed to do. So you don't want to procrastinate when things wear out. You don't want to just keep them. You want to try to find a way to get a new one and then throw the old one out. And something else similar to that procrastination situation is, you may have old dish towels that you're using to dry your dishes and they're all tattered and maybe coming apart or anything, and you just haven't gotten around to throwing them away, and you just haven't gotten around to getting new ones. And so you keep using the old ones. And so what you want to do is throw out those old dish towels and get new ones. Or maybe you have bought new ones already and you're just keeping the old ones. Don't keep those, throw those away. They're not going to do the job that you need them to do anyway. They're not going to dry real well anyway. So you might as well go ahead and get rid of them. And then that's going to clear up space and going to decrease the clutter that you actually have in your kitchen. And something else with ADHD, you might have this specific problem and you start brainstorming about what could help fix it. What item could you buy to actually fix it? So you go through, you think about all the different things that you could buy, and you do actually buy one. Say, for example, you buy a juicer, and now you've got the juicer home. You're going to be healthy. You're going to make your own juice, and it's going to be great and phenomenal, right? But it just sits on your counter, sits in your pantry, and you never bring it out to make juice. At the time, you thought this would be a great idea, but now that is just a piece of clutter that you have in your kitchen. And so if you have things like that, these kitchen gadgets that you bought and you just don't use, you may want to think about getting rid of them because they are taking up space. And then once you have that space back that was taken up in the first place, now you can use that space for something else that you want on your counter or in your cabinet that's going to be a lot more useful than something you never ever use. And here's something else that you want to look at and think about. Think about all the different pots and pans that you may have, that you might have a new set, then you might have an old set, and you might have a new set that you never use. You might have an old set that you never use because you got the new set now. And so you have extra pots and pans that you just have that somewhere, some way are not being used at all. And so all the ones that you have no use for anymore, you need to think about getting rid of and giving them to someone else or donating or whatever you want to do with them. But you don't want to keep them in your kitchen because they do take up space, and it might take up a whole cabinet down there or up there because of the fact that you just have so many. And sometimes they're just not in any order and they're stacked on top of each other. And then trying to get to the one you actually need is way down the bottom of the stack. And you're trying to lift everything up to get to that one, or take everything out to get to the one pot and pan you actually need. But if you don't have all the excess pots and pans, it's going to make it much easier to make sure that you can get to the one you can actually use, and then not go through all the ones you're never going to use anymore. And this doesn't just apply to pots and pans that you cook with. Say you want to be a baker and you have gone out and bought all the different baking things, the baking pans, the cake pans, cookie sheets, whatever you want to use to bake with, all the different utensils and things and mixers and everything, right, that you have bought so that you can bake. And so with this, if you have extra baking pans, if you have extra cookie sheets, then you might want to think about, do I need this many? Or is this an old one that I can throw away because I got a new one? Like, this one just doesn't work anymore. And so it's just taking up space. And you want to go through and look at those and see, do you want to get rid of some of these? And when you do get rid of some because you just don't need them anymore, that is going to help you create some more space in your pantry, cabinet, wherever. Sometimes they're stored under the stove. And so that's going to just help to make all those areas much neater, less clutter, and it's gonna help you find things a lot quicker as well. And the great thing about all this information that I'm sharing with you is that it will make your kitchen more ADHD friendly, a more comfortable place to be in. And if you're getting value out of this, go ahead and share this with someone that also needs to know about how to make a kitchen more ADHD friendly. And something else that probably goes into that you're really interested in cooking is that you've gone out and just bought a whole bunch of different spices that you're going to use to make your food taste better. And you've got a spice rack full of like 50 different spices, but you only use like 5 of them because those are your favorite 5. You just never use the other like 45 of them because of the fact that they're just not something that you like the taste of a lot of times, or you tried it and you're just like, nah, I don't want to even use this ever again. And so you end up with a spice rack full of these spices that you're not going to use. And so that takes up space. Even though a spice rack may be small, it still takes up space in your cabinet or on your counter sometimes. And so go through all those spices and see which ones that you actually like, which ones you're actually going to use. If you know that you're not going to use certain ones, then it might be time to go through and get rid of the ones you're not going to use. And you might say, well, why don't I just keep them? Because sometimes I might use them just in case, but you don't want to keep items just in case because it could be that you never ever use it, or it could be that you only use it once in the 2 years or 3 years, somewhere way down the line, and now you just have these spices sitting there taking up counter space when you could go ahead and just get rid of them. And then when you actually do need them, if you actually need them, then you can go back and buy them at the time that you actually need them, and you don't have to hold on to them all the time. And here's another ADHD procrastination situation, is that you have cleaning supplies. You've bought them all, you've got them wherever you're going to keep them, and then it gets kind of low in one of those cleaning supplies. Like you just have a little bit left in the container, and instead of throwing it away, you keep it. And you not only keep it, you like turn it upside down to make sure you get the last little bit down to where it comes right next to the nozzle, to where you can actually then pour that last little bit out. Or you're just completely out of it and you haven't thrown the container away that it was in previously. In either one of those situations, you're keeping a huge container for just even a little bit of liquid or a little bit of cleaning supplies, or you're keeping a container that's completely empty and is just taking up space. Either of these situations, these things have become clutter. In these situations, it's just better to go ahead and open the new container of whatever cleaning supply, or buy a new container of cleaning supplies and then throw those away. You don't want to keep something that just has a little bit left, or you definitely don't want to keep an empty container that you're not using and there's nothing in there at all. And so if you are in that situation that you know that you have cleaning supplies that are just completely out or very close to being out, you want to go ahead and get rid of those and replace them with actual cleaning supplies that have a good amount or even a full amount that you can use, and that is going to be actually valuable to have them take up that space. And something else with ADHD, sometimes it comes with being clumsy or accident prone. And so you end up with things such as chipped dishes or chipped cups, or even broken things that you've just dropped on the floor or just broke in general with some other situation. And you keep these things because you're like, hey, I can still use this plate, it's chipped up or whatever, or maybe this piece is broken off. And you just decide to keep that in your cabinet or wherever, right? Because of the fact that you still like that plate or you still like that cup. It's like half broken or partially broken or chipped. And you decide that you want to keep it instead of getting rid of it. So you need to go through and look at different things. If they are chipped and if they are broken, and if you're like, you know, you kind of want to keep it because it is sentimental to you, you want to think about, should you go ahead and get rid of it and actually use plates or cups or whatever that is not chipped or pieces aren't broken off, or you're just not keeping something because you think that you're going to super glue it back together and repair that dish or cup. You want to go ahead and try to figure out, how can I get rid of these things and what can I use to replace these things? And this is going to help keep wherever you have your dishes clutter free, because of the fact if something is chipped or kind of broken, it doesn't kind of go with everything else in your cabinet, because a lot of dishes, they're made to design to be stacked. If you have something that's kind of irregular, then it's going to be harder to stack it in whatever place you have everything else stacked. In that case, you want to go ahead and try to get rid of that thing. And something else to think about, this is only part of it. Now you need to know about how you can use ADHD organization hacks for your kitchens. And I explain that in a video that you can watch right